Vampires. Why are they in the graveyard? Like, that's where the dead people are. If you're undead, why would you want to be where the dead people are? Be undead. Just go be undead somewhere else. Otherwise, I've got to deal with... Okay. I'm going to start again. My name's Guy. This is a graveyard. This is where I work. This is where I live. This is where I'll die. My job is to stop things getting out of here. You'd think my job would be to put things in. No, my job is to stop things getting out. Things don't seem to want to stay in. Zombies, for example, just stumble into the road. Do you know how much attention it brings when a zombie stumbles into the road? I mean, it's funny, yeah, but still. Vampires. I get, you start here, I get that. You have to get out the ground, and then you fly away. You don't just stay here. I don't have to deal with that. I've got skeletons walking around. That doesn't make any sense. They have no muscle structure. How are they walking around? Werewolves are going at it in the bushes. Werewolf piss stinks, by the way, and their turds, you probably never considered this, human-sized. Vampires, they have a choice to be, they're basically humans, alright, so they're a little bit paler, not much paler than me, to be fair. I have to live here all night, but still. Easiest thing to do with vampires, when they come out of the ground, the second they pop, straight away. Easiest way to take care of them. Don't have to worry about them going and trying to eat you. I mean, look at this, look. Anyway, as I said, my name's Guy. I'm here to take you through a couple of horror films, horror features, reviews, unboxings, bits and pieces, anything I can essentially do to keep the lights on, which, as you can tell, I don't really have any lights or a working toilet, to be honest. That's what the graves are for. So, anyway, vampires. Captain Kronos Vampire Hunter, that's where we're going to start because that's what I could do with tonight. Now, Captain Kronos came late in the Hammer horror cycle. There was a number of Draculas before this, 10 maybe, probably not. Most of them starring Christopher Lee, a few of them starring Peter Cushing, sometimes at the same time, sometimes not. When it came to the 1970s, Hammer decided we're going to try and do a vampire film that doesn't necessarily focus in on the vampires. Instead, we're going to focus on a swashbuckling, young, handsome man, can't relate, who's going to be tracking the countryside, killing the vampires. Actually, originally, the reason he's called Captain Kronos, you can see in the name Kronos, okay, and probably in this logo on the front here with the arrow looking like a clock, although that could just be an arrow. I could be reading into it. He was originally supposed to be a time traveler. Captain Kronos was supposed to be going through time, offering different types of vampires. Nobody's got the budget to make that film, particularly in the 1970s for Hammer. They kept the different types of vampires. The vampires in these movies are, they make you old instead of drinking your blood and just killing you and turning you. They actually drain your life force. They're not allergic to sunlight necessarily. They have a reflection, stuff like that. Captain Kronos, however, not a time traveler, just a guy on a horse that goes across the land killing them. He does have a hunchback assistant though, because, you know, every good main horror character needs a hunchback assistant. I don't have a hunchback assistant. I don't have any assistant. I just have back on track. When he's not going across the land killing off vampires, he's mostly sleeping with Carolyn Monroe. No judgments there. The film is a lot more action-packed than some of the other horror vampire canon of Hammers. Although for my money, Peter Cushing's still the definitive vampire killer, just As I said earlier, straight in the heart, straight out, nice and easy, no mess, bit of dust, but you can get that out. This set is the first time that Hammer have actually released a 4K and Blu-ray set of their own. Usually these sets come to the UK shores via Studio Canal, things like that. However, Hammer have taken it upon themselves this time to release, as you can see, quite a massive set for what is only one film. The idea behind Captain Kronos was that there was going to be a number of these films. He was going to slaughter a bunch of different types of vampires, thus go on a bunch of different types of adventures. Unfortunately, the money wasn't quite there after this came out. It didn't make too much. It has got a cult following since, and deserves it. But they decided to go back to the well once this didn't work and go on to Satanic Rites of Dracula, where Peter Cushing fights Christopher Lee, who is now a James Bond-style villain Dracula, who's developing an illness that kills it's shit. It's awful. In that film, spoiler alert for a movie that came out in the 1970s, Dracula dies by walking into a hedge. Walking into a hedge. None of these walk into hedges and disappear. I've had zombies walk into hedges, that's annoying. You pull them out and the entrails come with, and now you're covered in entrails. That's a mess. But the vampires, no, it's never as convenient as walking into a hedge. Although, unlike these, I can kill them with a cross and some holy water. I just drink holy water now, to be honest. It makes my life much easier. But in these films, they're a bit sturdier, or in this film, rather, they're a bit sturdier than they are out there. Now, as you can see, this is a massive set. I'm going to try to open it up for you here. And there are a number of things. You've got some artwork by Graham Humphreys. Graham Humphreys, for those who don't know, has done a ton of Hammer artwork in the past, Amicus artwork, basically any British horror film artwork. Graham's had a crack at it and done very, very well. His artwork is absolutely gorgeous, as you can see on there. He also, I think, did the original print run for the first Evil Dead film across the UK as well, and that's released. So, in this set we have a series of lobby cards. There we go, for those of us that have lobbies, I guess. I'm not so lucky. We also have a double-sided poster with some 1970s Captain Kronos artwork on it. There we go. I will give you a closer look at these soon enough. In here is also some archival interviews and writings on the film, a couple of script pages, some photos from the set. Again, I will show you a close-up in a moment. But as you can see, quite a chunky book, about 127 pages of interviews, featurettes, that kind of stuff, articles. One of the coolest things in this set is a graphic novel adaptation for those of us that are cinematically challenged, I guess, and would rather not watch the film. In here you get not only an adaptation of the film, but you also get a semi-sequel as well. If I remember rightly, there was a number of graphic novel sequels to Captain Kronos in lieu of the adventures he should have been having on the big screen. And then lastly is the 5 discs themselves, which, excuse me, there we go, 5 discs themselves. In here you have 2 Ultra HD discs and you have 3 Blu-ray discs. Now the discs are essentially the same, despite the fact that there is a 3rd Blu-ray disc. All you're getting is the same films and the same extras, just ported over to the 3 Blu-rays as opposed to all the UHDs. I think it's probably a space thing more than anything else. There are 3 different versions of the film in here. I say 3 different versions of the film. It's the same version of the film 3 times. It's just in 3 different aspect ratios. Now, do we need 3 different aspect ratios? Yes. There's not much in it though, to be fair. I've watched 2 different aspect ratios on the Blue from this set themselves. And while it's nice to have, an option to watch it theatrically or to watch it as filmed or to watch the American theatrical cut, ultimately you're getting the same experience. you're not missing much by having the frame wider or taller, it doesn't really matter. There's interviews with the director, there's a reunion with the cast and crew from about 2008, I think. The original trailers are on here. There's a wealth of stuff, but it's not overwhelming. But ultimately, again, I just want to call attention to just how stunning the set is. There we go. A number of scenes. If Hammer are going to be putting out films of their own, this is an incredible way to start. I mean, truthfully, I don't think my wallet can handle Hammer putting out all of the films on their own, but then nobody's surprised about that. Now, it is a shame that we only got one Captain Kronos movie, because the film itself is kind of a adventure serial style tone. It was clearly built to be a franchise, and you can still see the DNA in this film in some of the more modern vampire action movies. Things like Blade, for example, Van Helsing with Hugh Jackman in, even things like Buffy as well. Anytime the vampire slayer idea became an ongoing myth of one guy or one girl in Buffy's case, or Underworld, fighting a number of different vampires across different places in different periods. The idea was here originally with Captain Kronos, so the fact that Captain Kronos and Hammer never really got to see the success of that is a bit of a shame. To summarize with this set, absolutely worth your money. If you're a Hammer fan, you can't get this film in a better condition than could be asked for right here. If you're not a Hammer fan, to see the kind of beginnings of the Vampire Hunter mythology on the silver screen outside of Van Helsing in the Dracula films, of course, it's an interesting watch. And again, to be honest, it's just a good idea to support the package here that Hammer's put out, because this is kind of the release we want to see more of in the future. The rights for Hammer films tend to be all over the place, and they kind of always have been, even since their original release. Their original theatrical releases were just given out sort of to the highest bidder, essentially. So it's very rare to see a release direct from the company themselves. We're certainly probably never going to get like a full Christopher Lee Dracula box set, for example, or a full Peter Cushing Frankenstein box set, as gorgeous and as fantastic as Hammer would put out with that, considering the thing they put together here. This comes highly recommended. I would absolutely urge any Hammer or any horror fans to put their money towards it, and hope that the studio knock out more releases of a similar ilk. In terms of vampire slaying, though, it's not helpful. Nothing like actually having to go out there and do it yourself, which I never actually signed up for, by the way. When I signed up to be the caretaker here, I signed up to be the caretaker here. I didn't sign up to be Captain Kronos. One thing about vampires you might not know, though, and I get a tickle from this every single time, if you've got a crucifix tattoo and you're bitten by a vampire, when you turn, you pop out of the ground, poof, you bubble from the skin where your tattoo is and you're gone. Funniest thing in the world. Sorry.